So I'm popping a link into the chat, and if you are both up for it, and if Peter's maybe joining us yet, the issue is we discovered that as of about 14.0, our changelog, when the changelog process changed, so we're using the commit trailer instead of the YAML files, we lost the, what would I call it, kind of recognition for community contributions. So previously, a community contribution had an author name in the YAML, which meant that the author was credited in the changelog. But when we changed to using the commit trailers, there was just a little bug that meant that so you no longer have to manually say who the author is in the changelog commits. The changelog generator is supposed to be intelligent enough to determine whether it's a community contribution or a what would I call it, a GitLab team contribution. The bug's been fixed, but it leaves this tiny little gap, which is me being incredibly selfish. For core team members are not, they basically kind of fall in this weird void between being a contributor and a team member. So I've actually thrown up this merge request. I won't share my screen yet, but I can do it in a minute if it's helpful, suggesting that we kind of add some logic to the changelog generation to kind of say, hang on a minute, they have access to the project, so they feel like they're a team member. Oh, but wait a minute, they're a core team member, so we treat them differently. There's a bit of an objection to the change that I've suggested, because I think it might add quite a bit of overhead from a sort of performance perspective. So we're kind of looking at, is there a better approach, or can we just improve the performance, I guess, of kind of what I've put together? So forgive me because I can't remember who. There was a suggestion to say, could we just add an additional trailer to the commit? I'm a little bit anti that, just because it seems like I don't want to call it a barrier, but quite a manual thing that, you know, the core team have got to remember how to do on every commit, every merge request. And what's my other excuse? I guess I would also quite like, although I'm sure there's another way, that we could somehow maybe rerun this changelog generation for the previous 2 or 3 releases to regenerate the changelogs that have been incorrectly generated. So I don't know that there's any way for us to go back and update, amend the commits from, you know, stuff that's been and gone now and merged into master. I think that's part of my reasoning. Maybe another part is that, you know, let's think about scalability, and if we wanted some other kind of mechanism, is there just a better approach to this? So let me see if any of you guys have any thoughts or suggestions on how we could do this in a nice way. I'm going to take that as a no, or are we still digging into the code to see how it?
Yeah, I'm
still digging. Okay. I'll tell you, although I don't know how helpful it'll be, I'm just going to check the branch out myself, and I will share my screen once I get it checked out to kind of show you roughly what it's doing at the moment. I'm hoping we might be able to improve it a little bit while we're at it as well, because I got super confused when I was looking at the kind of definition of a contributor. It seems a bit backwards to me, because team members aren't actually considered to be contributors. I thought a contributor might be anyone who's ever committed to a project, but yeah, that apparently isn't how it works. So let me share my screen. Okay. So the previous check to determine whether or not to, what's the word I'm looking for, credit the author, was simply this. So project, team, contributor. And the bug I think that we had was that we didn't have this in here. It was just passing the user rather than the user ID. And if we look at models, project, team is project team. Forgive me if I'm doing this a really painful way. And contributor. So this will essentially return false for anyone who has any level of access to the project. So this will mean that GitLab team members are not classed as contributors, and certainly core team members are not classed as contributors as well. So I have a bit of a nitpick, which is maybe unrelated to this, that this definition in itself seems really backwards and bonkers to me, because, you know, if we are not considered contributor, like that just doesn't really make sense to me. That a contributor by definition is someone that isn't a member of the project. In my mind, the word contributor means someone that has contributed to the project, and that should not exclude team members. But that's a bit of an aside.
Yeah, I think we should call it community contributor, because this is true actually for community contributors not being part of the GitLab project.
Yeah, that seems like a good idea to me. I don't know. The only thing that I know we need to consider in the back of our minds as well at the same time is that this, I was sort of focused initially on the GitLab project, but just remembering that this is in the main GitLab, this code exists in the GitLab. So it may be a bit misleading if someone's self-hosted, or somebody, you know, someone is not an open source company, then they have no concept of a community contributor. So I guess that's the only thing. I was very conscious when I was introducing changes that, you know, does this change make sense? You know, if first of all we change this to be that, is that a bad thing? Is that bad practice? Because there is no such thing as a community contributor in certain worlds.
Yeah, you're totally right. I completely missed the fact that it's this change log is being generated for any project. So not
Yeah,
just, yeah,
but
you're right.
But I agree with your first statement. I would prefer this to be called community contributor, because, you know, otherwise this bit just doesn't make sense.
Maybe it's some other word, like maybe not community, but maybe like external, because
Yes, I like that.
or non-member contribution. I don't know. Or yeah, non-member or external. I'm not sure what external means because we need a definition for that.
It's a bit
Word
fluffy, I guess, isn't
yes.
it?
Non-member contributor.
Non-member, yeah. That was
Mhm.
popped in my head as well.
That's what it
It's a
says
bit
on the
long.
tin.
It's a bit long though, like non-member contributor, but it makes it clearer, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I think that helps for a start in my mind, because otherwise I was just reading this backwards, but previously I was yeah, I kind of didn't understand that we were expecting. So contributor. Yeah, I was thinking we needed to do something like this. That it's not a core team member because we want this to return false, but we actually want it to return true. So, okay, I will raise a completely separate MR, hoping that there aren't thousands of references to the old method. But I will look at raising a separate MR off the back of this, or issue a corresponding MR to improve the name of this method. But going back to the original problem and the poor kind of performance potentially of my attempt at solving the problem for core team members. Okay, thank you. Does anyone have any other bright ideas? I guess first of all, I'd be interested to know why this would be poorly performing, which hopefully we've got an explanation here. This one had a lot of database queries. Right. So, yeah, I guess is caching's the only thing I know. I don't know. I know absolutely zero about something like Redis, but I wondered if we were to sort of say that this group, the members of this group, we've got this memoirs or memrise or memrise command that I think I've seen thrown about from place to place, where we can use a key or something to, if we were to store this in memory in such a way that, you know, we're not worried if this is out of date by a minute or a second, a minute, an hour or so. Would that potentially alleviate any concerns about the performance? We wouldn't have to make, once we've read this to memory once, we wouldn't need to hit the database again potentially for the entire generation of the change log.
So as far as I understand, this this changelog config object is being instantiated in a changelog service, and then so if you can open up the changelog service.
Oops, if I can spell.
And we say, yeah, in line 64 from Git. And with this config object, we are adding actually entries to the release, which yeah, release, and in line 78, it seems we are iterating over all commits.
Yeah.
And we add an entry in line 686 to the release. And when you open up the GitLab changelog release or the method definition of add entry, I'm not sure how smart your editor is.
Let's try it. Beautiful.
Ah, this is perfect. Yeah. So if you scroll down, you should be able to see the contributor question mark. So essentially what we are doing is that per each commit, we are actually asking if this commit is being done by a contributor, which triggers a SQL statement, or at least if it's, as you mentioned, somehow cached, pulls this from cache. I haven't verified that, but this is at least like a perfect example of n+1 query. So this is why it was suggested to maybe pull the authors upfront in a single statement instead of n+1, despite having cache or not. So,
okay. So I missed, maybe you read more closely than I. So rather than trying to be clever and using like memoirs or whatever someone, Peter, do you know the pronunciation?
Memorized.
Yeah. So rather than trying to be clever, are you potentially suggesting that we could do something further up so we get the list of them, or we do the check to see if it's actually a GitLab. So if it's gitlab.com, or do some other checkup further up that we can then pass something into, well, I guess we would be passing it into where we're getting the config object, right? Passing it into here.
Yeah, somehow. I'm not sure how actually, because it seems so in the changelog service, line 83, we are actually we are taking care of loading the authors specifically. So, or like in a special way. So it seems we are avoiding with this slide, we are already avoiding n+1 queries. So maybe we could somehow pass the list of all authors on this page to the release somehow. I'm not sure how yet.
So we are actually, so you're right. We're always passing the author, regardless of whether it's a team member or not, right? But it's something inside here that so it'd be sort of changing this at this point. So this bit I don't understand, I'll be fully honest with you. So how does it from this? Oh, okay. So this then gets stored and then it uses the template that was mentioned here. That to then where's the alphabet? Right. Okay. Yeah. So, okay. So this is where it's checking. Gotcha. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, this is why it was suggested to maybe try the other approach because it's simpler to implement. So in terms of
no, I'm starting to understand a little bit more. Well, yeah, I think I sort of aired a few reasons why I'm not overly keen of having to add the trailer, but you've really helped to explain that maybe we can pass something else that could come down almost to here and be interpreted in here.
The problem is with that something else, as you mentioned, should be like project independent. So we should not hard code GitLab core members or anything like that, because it's used by other projects as well.
As you mentioned,
self-hosted.
How do we make that so that
that's a great question. I don't know yet. So let's find out.
Have any of you ever generated a release before, generated one of these change logs to know what the process looks like from a sort of front end or API or whatever we do to new. So that would be really nice if when you generate it, you know, let's say we had I don't know what you call it, like a YAML almost that's used to generate it in the first place. If we could put something in here like credit, and then, you know, where did I put it in here? Something bonkers like that.
So basically what we are trying to do here is we have a particular group of users that should always be credited. So I
Bingo.
If we can generalize it and say that define a set of groups somewhere and members of those groups always get credited. So that
exactly.
A self-managed GitLab installation wants to do something like this with their own groups of users. They can add those groups to this defined set, and whoever's a member of that group gets credited.
Perfect. Like, yeah, I love that. I love that. Yeah. So do we think that this it makes sense? This would be the place where you would define that in this YAML file, because I presume, well, yeah, this is definitely what's being used to generate it. So then we just need something somewhere in here that can read that and pull that list in, and then in here it could pretty much there's a bit of chicken and egg there actually, because I was still thinking doing something like, or almost, I don't know how clever you can write code in here, something credit.includes author or something like that, but then we don't really want to do that in here if we're going to make this specifically always credit. But I'm not sure if if we did that in our changelog service, we could, so
I missed the start. So we want for the release to credit anyone who contributed in that specific release, or like,
so yeah, so sorry, forgive me. The background on this is that, so there was a bug introduced when we changed from using the YAML to the commit trailers. That means that community contributors haven't been credited for the last couple of releases. So that's been fixed. But the automated way that that it now works, this is me being selfish, so again, forgive me, means that it's looking at project members, and core team members fit into this weird section of the Venn diagram where we're not GitLab team members, but we are project members. So we're no longer getting, or we will no longer get, they haven't cut any new releases since this fix was put into place, but we won't get credited going forwards. So we're trying to find a way. There was a suggestion on the MR to say, could we add an additional commit trailer that the core team or anyone could use potentially. I mean, I guess if everyone felt that that was definitely the way forward, then I would just suck it up. But I'm trying to use collective brain power to see if there's a nicer way that won't sort of mean that the core team, we have to remember to add this additional trailer.
Okay, so just for me to understand, what the contributors, I'm not sure how that policy works, so excuse me for that ignorance, but would these contributors be listed in every release? So if for instance you contributed in release 11, would you be listed in release 14?
So let me find the changelog.
Or is it expected that you should contribute in release 14 for you to be listed? This is what I'm not understanding.
Yeah, so basically the change log. Let me just find the change log.
You should have some commits or some merge requests. In release
Yes,
14,
basically
you have to okay.
against each. Now I've pulled the wrong one. Oh, come on. It's because the camera's watching. So next to each MR, next to each change, it should say, so this is what changed and this is who. So if I scroll down to before the bug was introduced, in fact, let me search for my name. So this was an MR, this was what I changed and I got a credit there. So as all of these ones above must be community contributions as well.
Okay, got it. Thanks.
Cool. No, no worries. But where you can see over the last couple of releases, you can see that the format has changed very slightly. The whole thing is a hyperlink now. It doesn't say the MR ID, but there's still a link to it, but there's no credits on any of them at all.
Got it now. Thanks.
Awesome. No worries.
I'm missing some context. It doesn't mean I'll be helpful, but helps me really follow up with you. Okay, so back to your idea.
Yeah, so Ruben's idea there, I really like of something nice and generic that we can, you know, I don't know whether you were suggesting within this file, but this seems like the thing that drives everything. So it seems to me to make sense that it be in this file, that we have somewhere, you know, yeah, the ability, if we want to make it not GitLab specific or not GitLab project specific, so anyone can use it self-managed privately however they want, somewhere where they can say, or I also want to consider all the members of this group as contributors and therefore credit them. So yeah, if we were to add that in there, we load the config, but the config itself actually has this method in it. Sorry
for interrupting. I just want to say the method, the members of the group that you add into that always credit array, I'm guessing they're not going to change very often. And from the looks of how it's called from changelog service. I'm guessing it sort of passes all the commits in one session sort of.
Yep.
So, similar to how we've in changelog service, if we check in the execute method, I suppose we could just check who are the members of those groups once, and then simply pass it to the add entry call, something like that.
Yeah, so so how does this, so when we initialize it, it passes template. What I don't currently know or understand is, so what else is in the template? The categories and the template itself and the tag regex. So I'm trying to see where it actually, what I'm missing is where it actually reads this YAML and then how we would access.
I think the YAML is read in line, I need to 40. So if you go to the from Git method.
Yeah, so that's here.
Yeah, and then it calls, so if the changelog config exists, which is the case in our case, it reads the YAML and passes it to from hash. So if you look into the hash, so now hash actually contains categories and template as the keys and the values as value.
Gotcha.
So
Brilliant. Okay.
there you can see it's accessing a template line 54 and categories on line 63.
Yeah.
Seems you have date format already optional, which is not set right now, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, and tech
And
regs.
that then returns. So how? Oh, okay. So we could hopefully do something. If categories equals to that. So we're actually reading it in here as well. Do we really need to do that? I feel like we could pretty much just
assign.
yeah, I suppose we might need to check it, but almost like, yeah, we could just do config dot always credit equals hash.
As a suggestion, maybe for clarity, I would rename it to always credit
Group members.
Contributors. Yeah, group members. Yeah, this is, or it's actually always credit member from group, because
Yes.
we are specifying a group which where the member is being credited.
So should someone then maintain this group, or is it already maintained? It's like someone.
So I guess if we're being generic, someone may need to maintain it. But in this scenario, my selfish scenario, the core team members are added to this group, and that's how we've got access to the GitLab project and the GitLab org group, is because we're added to this community. What was it? Community members group somewhere. Yeah, we're added to this, and then this group is a member of the GitLab org group, I guess, with developer access.
Interesting though, but then this will actually not show contributors per merge request. It will just show a list of contributors for this release, right? The change that you are making right now, or am I missing something?
Sorry, rephrase that one.
So like previously, for every merge request, you'll see who was the contributor, right?
Yeah.
But with this change, we will only list the contributors as like, these are also the community contributors, but we will not see them listed for every merge request. Is that correct?
No, so I think the intention, all the intention was, so based on where we've got so far, so when the config is loaded here, we've now got access to do something like also credit these user IDs, and we can basically do some kind of
okay, so we will load members from that
yeah
group.
yeah
Okay.
yeah from group, and then we've got our config dot whatever we called it.
Yeah, got it. Yeah,
and then we can pass that in to, what would we pass that into? Or no, actually we don't need to pass it in anywhere, because we're actually doing it inside. Yeah, I think if you guys are all somewhat happy, that's a reasonably valid attempt, then I'll have a bash offline. I'll like putting that together.
I have two more remarks. So first of all, right now we would just add the ability of providing a single group. So I was wondering whether, thinking about other projects, non-GitLab projects, actually using this feature, having a list of groups where you can add. This is my first, right. The second one would be, right now we assume, or we would just check the membership of the group, and we would not check, for example, the access level, which might be interesting to check. So whether a certain member of a group is a member, so which implicitly means, I think, at least guest, right?
Yeah.
but it's maybe it could be interesting to check the access level to the group. So something like, for the group A, please check the member has to be at least, I don't know, developer. Of another group could be, I don't know, maintainer or something like that. It could be
Whatever.
optional. This feature could be optional. So if you do not provide any access levels, we would just assume it's at least a member, which means at least guest.
Yeah, it's given me an idea as well, actually, because the interesting assumption that, correct me if I'm wrong, but the assumption that I think we've made is that everyone generating change logs using this built-in functionality only wants to, what's the word I'm looking for that I've been using throughout, only wants to, they only want to, what's the word I've been using? They only want to reference non-project members. They only want to mention, I can't think of the term, it will come to me in a minute.
Attribute, I don't know.
Not quite, along those lines. Yeah, they only want to do it for, but you know, I don't see.
Praise non-members or something.
Yeah, it'll come to me in a minute. It'll come to but then, you know, I can see scenarios where, you know, they would want everyone to be like, think of maybe a slightly different open source project, like not quite of the scale of Git. Maybe like there's a small team of 3 or 4 people and they actually want credit, I think is the term I was looking for. They want everyone to be credited, you know. So I could even argue, you know, why should you guys not be credited on the changelog? I suspect it may be something because, you know, some people that work behind the scenes would get less credit than, you know, people that are working on. I don't really know what the long and short of it is, but I don't see why everyone's changelog should follow this same rule. So maybe we could even, there's absolutely no need for this at this stage, but we could have a don't credit. And if you set that, then it will, you know, always credit. So if this is set, then it will only not credit these. It won't make any assumptions that you don't want to credit project team members, because that seems like a really bonkers sort of assumption to make.
Have like a key that specifies whom to credit, so then you can have values like everyone or only project members, something like that.
Yeah, so you can do either or. You can either explicitly say like, you know, I do want to credit. I guess that's where it becomes a bit tricky when you're saying people that aren't a member of this group. So yeah, where maybe you need like some kind of operator to sort of say always, I don't know, but it's just not very flexible at the moment. I think that overcoming the immediate hurdle, I really like this technique to sort of have an always credit or something like that, which I see that it's probably going to be just as easy to support a list rather than just only supporting one. We might as well do that from the beginning. But I can also see that maybe I should just raise an issue for this as a follow-up, but it might be nice to make it more flexible rather than the way we've currently sort of forced your hand to say, actually, this is the way that the changelog generator works. It's never going to credit anyone that is a member of the project. It seems like quite a brash assumption to make. Although I guess that's in the template, right? So all you'd have to do is remove this bit and just do that, and then everyone would get credited.
Yeah, for this, I don't know, because sometimes, or usually, the merge requests coming from GitLab members or employees are not assigned to a single author, but you always collaborate, right? Is it like with your colleagues and UX and managers and so on? So basically, all those people would need credit for in this.
Yeah, I mean that's valid. Although I sort of feel that for community contributions as well. You know, it's still a team effort. There's people that review and provide feedback
sure,
and mentor, but
but
yeah,
for that you want to highlight the community.
yeah,
contribution
fair, yeah,
specifically
yeah.
because it's you are not being paid for the contribution anyway as a community contributor, so you want to highlight that. So
Yeah.
I get your point, and it's tough to make it as flexible as we want to.
I think it all boils down to this use of terminology. If we improve, change, fix, whatever you want to call it, the name of this method, the name of this method, and therefore the way that this is referenced in here, I think that'll make things a lot clearer. And then we can start to sort of genericize this as well. But that's really helpful, and I think I can definitely take something away and either push something up or maybe see who was it that had suggested.
I have one last remark actually regarding security. So this is while looking at your MR. Yeah, this actually this file when you open your MR, the other,
back to that. Yeah, sorry.
Right now we are hard coding the group name, which is fine for that. If we are about to make the group names configurable, it could be so an attacker could potentially just try to find out whose member is of an other.
Oh yeah, I see what you're saying, because if they've got access to the members of here, they could do something like
each. So the problem is that in the MR it's doing find by full pass, so we are not checking the access of the user who is actually generating the changelog, and we should do it in a way so we are not potentially exposing confidential information like membership of private groups.
Yeah.
So this is like a concern I would have regarding security immediately, because I could just try to find or try to guess private non-visible groups and try to find out. Okay, but for this you need to fake the commit author. Okay, but this is also easily done. I think it is. Is it?
Yeah, it's fairly easy. You can set pretty much any.
Well, anyway, maybe I'm not 100% correct on the implications, but we should at least.
No, you're right. If nothing else, make sure we at AppSec or whoever it is to sign off on it as well. Maybe.
I feel the changelog service is being called by a user. The user argument. So we could actually rely on the past user to the changelog service and check whether the user has access to the information of the group, like members and so on.
No, that's brilliant. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah, awesome. Amazing. Okay, sorry guys, I didn't I didn't expect to take up 50 minutes of your time looking at this one, but that's been really helpful. Based on the minimal amount of time left, does anyone have something for 10 minutes that they wish to bounce around?
No, not really.
I wanted to say thank you about for joining, because it's always fun to watch like new ideas, and especially for you. Thank you for for bringing this up and making it happen in this.
You're welcome.
form.
Thank you. Yeah, like I love these sessions. I think the front end one's been happening for a while, and they're really interesting, even when you have no clue what the rest of the team are talking about. It's great to learn. So yeah, thank you. Ruben, did you have something you maybe wanted to?
I don't know if we have enough time, but if someone can have a look and even asynchronously give any kind of tips. I have an MR that that just removes an index from the database, and it's causing specs to fail in import export. Let me put the MR URL in the chat.
Oh, database is always fun, isn't it?
Yeah, so I'm just wondering how removing an index can cause specs to fail.
Yeah, it's interesting to see which specs and how they are failing though.
Yeah, I'll put the link in chat. I can share my screen also a little bit.
Sure.
Go-to assumption always has to be that it's broken master, right?
Yeah, maybe. But the problem with those specs is that running them on local causes a lot of failures. So it's difficult to properly debug that. But the thing is, I tried a few specific tests. The ones I tried, they pass on local, on master, and they fail on this branch. So the index that is being removed is this one. It's a simple index on the projects table, project features table, on the project ID column. So that's all the MR does. All it does is remove the index, and that's it. And it's causing failures in.
So it's on projects table, right?
Project features.
On project features.
It's causing failures in import export. Tree restore respect.
That's really interesting, isn't it?
So first of all, this is a unique index. So I'm guessing that can be something to hint you.
So this index is being removed because there is another index which already provides the unique constraint. Here it is.
Unique constraint on. So this is a unique index on project ID. So I'm wondering if now foreign key.
So
yeah,
if you can, it's a unique index also on project ID, which is the same here. The
Oh,
only difference
yeah.
is that it includes container registry access level. So we already have a unique index being provided by this index, unique constraint being provided by this index, which is why this one is being removed.
Sorry, I've got a question. What does it mean? It includes container registry access level?
That Postgres provides where, so this column is not part of the unique index, but each leaf node in the B tree has that information. So that if you're doing a query that only checks project ID and container registry access level, it doesn't need to go to the actual table. It can just check the value from the index.
Yeah, it kind of gets that data back when it hits that index rather than having to get a reference to the record and then read the record.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's a poor explanation.
So
project
features.
Failure is definitely in the sort of right area, isn't it, to suggest that it's just weird because almost like something is failing but being hidden. Like so there's an error being thrown somewhere, but
yeah, I can show you what it looks like. So for example,
So
run this.
Mhm.
Sorry, go ahead.
does it fail locally if you run the individual spec?
Yeah. Can you see my
Yep.
terminal?
Mhm.
Okay. So I'm currently on that branch. This is the example that fails. So let's run this. This is one of the examples that fail.
Interesting.
I did this debugging a while back, but another interesting thing I found was that it seemed like the test itself was testing the wrong thing, but that might just be because I'm unfamiliar with import export. So
I wonder if you were to delete, remove the other index. I know you want, that's not what you're actually looking to do, but I'm intrigued, interested to know if you were to get rid of the one that includes that column and keep the other one. I know that's going to take time, etc. But it just, yeah.
So it didn't fail this time, right?
This time it's on master.
Oh, this one is the master. I didn't see the other one.
Yeah.
though.
So we can try that. I mean, oh, I've got another meeting. I'm guessing it should pass because it seems like it's the index that is being removed is causing something, but we can definitely try that.
As you say, the index, it's not essentially the same thing, but it almost is. So
Should try that on master, I guess.
Maybe we get more information if the spec does not stop at the first failure. So maybe you could add aggregate failures somewhere to see all of the errors. Just maybe we get more hints on that. So for example, in the spec file tree restorer spec, it stops at line 56 as far as I understand. But we could I'm not sure if I'm reading the spec properly. Project tree restore work. So maybe we could add to the shared example section, we could add aggregate failures. So project tree restore work properly. Yeah, line 15. We do like comma colon aggregate failures. I think it is. Yeah. Or even to the whole spec. It doesn't matter actually. Maybe it's just the wrong. I don't know the wrong. It seems it's not writing the project features properly, but maybe something more off.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to debug before. Was that, for example, issues access level is expecting it to be disabled. From what I remember, this was debugging that I did like a month back. But from what I remember, it should have been 10. So I'm actually wondering how it was passing before, or how is it passing on master? Let's see what happens now. I've removed the index from structure.sql.
But the index still exists in the database at the moment, right? So that's not gonna.
Doesn't it recreate the test database? I'm
I
not sure about that.
don't know
I
actually.
think you might need to rebuild the test database, but I'm not sure. I didn't see how you've run it.
What is it?
So what you are saying that the default value of issues access level should be 0, right?
I think the issues no, I'm saying
The spec
that
accepts it to be 10.
yeah, but I think it's correct that it's disabled.
Okay, so it should be private, but it is.
No, it should
It is.
be
It is.
disabled.
The spec expects it to be private, but you think it should be disabled, and it's always been passing incorrectly in the past.
So when it's disabled, what does it mean for the value? Is it 0?
0.
Then?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
0 is disabled, 10 is private, 20 is
Okay.
enabled. Okay, so yeah, it looks like there's no, that index is not there.
Mhm.
So if I add it back and rerun the spec, will it automatically add back the index? How does that watch feature work?
I don't know. I didn't go to the training last week.
What branch am I on? Oh, I'm on master. Oh, that's fine, yeah. How come it does not contain the other unique index?
I think you have to run migrations, right, in order to get the database into the state that you need it.
Yeah, maybe. Take to be create, I guess. Does anyone know?
Create which one?
How do you recreate the test database?
Database test prepare,
Ah, yeah.
the rake task.
Like this, right?
Yeah. I think it's with rake, but I'm not sure. Maybe it works with Rails as well.
I think it should be. I think I'll need to run soon.
Yeah, connected.
It's still going to create. Oh, because
Yeah, you have one connection only to the test, I guess.
okay. So now we have both indices.
Yeah, I'm even more confused, Ruben, because you said about the defaults, but I might be looking at this completely wrong. But the tree restorer spec, when it spins up, when it creates the project on line 26, unless I'm looking at a different version, because I think I might be off master, it's even saying issues disabled. So it's explicitly stating to disable the issues, and yet the expect is expecting them to be set to private.
Yeah, I think that was also part of my confusion, but it might just be that the restoring process overrides some defaults. I'm not sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
So it's passing now, and I think we wanted to see if we disable this, does it still pass, right? I think that was the experiment.
So with both indexes, we're fine. And if we disable the first one, right?
Yeah. So if we disable the old index, the old unique index, it fails on CI and on local. And let's try.
I wonder though, I mean, it should create two indexes for the same column being unique, right? You should not have the problem where one index is created on the unique column, and then you want to create the second one, and database says, no, I'm not going to, because I already have one unique index on that column.
No, it allows it. We had it before. It here you can see this is one unique index on B3 on project ID, and this is another one.
Yeah.
Sorry, were you saying that database should not allow?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I was not saying that it should not. I'm wondering if there is something wonky going on.
So now we have only the old index, the new one is not there. I'm guessing it's going to pass because this is what is currently the state on, this is what it was like on master until a few months back.
Okay, yeah. It's interesting because I do wonder how the query optimizer, if it looks at whether you're accessing that column to determine which of those indexes to use.
Yeah.
Guess one other thing that you can do is run the first one, pull out the test log, run the second one, and then try and see the differences in between. So somewhere somehow is not updated, and then see where that update is being missed out.
Okay.
Because like obviously somehow project features is not being set to the right permission in the second case, and then you try and narrow down why is it not being set.
Yeah.
Did that just pass or?
Yeah, it passed. So as
Oh.
expected, it only fails when you remove the old index.
Can we remove the old index one more time? If you have time, because like if not, that's all. Just leave the new one.
Oh, you mean remove both indexes?
No. Just leave the last one that was fail. I want to see the failure one more time. So
Okay.
whatever the context was to see the failure.
You could just manually run that create. That's probably as quick, I suppose, to spin up the database.
What create? Oh, you mean
No. So it doesn't matter. It's just as quick to run that rate task anyway. But I was considering just running the create index command and drop index or whatever.
Okay, so now we have only the new index. The old one is gone.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if something in this restoration, but I can't even imagine what can change based on the existence of a unique index. I mean, it's not even that the unique constraint is gone. The constraint is still there, provided by another index. So
yeah, that really is bonkers.
yeah.
What does happen if you remove both indexes? Just for the
That's yeah, I can try that next.
Other than that, I was looking into how the spec setup is actually works, and it seems, because you mentioned that the access level for issues should be 0, right? Disabled, but it's not.
Yeah.
Because I assume you're referring to the factory, project factory, which actually says that the issues should be disabled, right? Yeah, this one. But I'm not sure if this actually is used, or maybe the in this spec we have fixtures. If you look into spec fixtures, lib, GitLab, import, export. I found this by following the setup import export config method in the spec, and it leads me to
this one.
Yes, exactly. So this one leads me to the spec fixtures in spec. It's called complex. So it seems this is like a fixture which represents the exported project. And looking into the project JSON, actually the first file. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sorry. I think the last one. Yeah.
The common util.
Is it common? Yeah, this one.
So,
yeah, this one led me to this export path, which means, as far as I understand, that the project tree restorer actually reads from an export. So it seems the export path defines the fixtures for the spec. And we are passing complex. So if you look into spec fixtures lib GitLab complex, I'm not sure how it works internally, but I suppose it will be reading some exported JSON files. One of them is project JSON. Yeah, this one. If you scroll down, or look for features, I think it says that issues is actually 10 features. Let me.
Yeah, issues access level is 10.
Yeah, right. So I was wondering if you change it to some other value without changing the indexes at all, not touching it, if the spec would fail. I imagine it would fail because I assume this one, the spec is actually reading from the from this fixture and overriding the yeah. This is my I at least this is what I understand from reading. So because you were chasing the path where maybe the spec is wrong initially, maybe it's not, maybe it's intentional to create a factory which has a disabled set of features, for example issues, and then it imports it. Yeah, and it's, I don't know, I'm not even sure where the instance variable project in line 26 in the specs is actually used, other than the one you search for. Maybe it's magically also. Yeah, but if I'm not sure if it's ever used without the @ sign. Okay, it's used across some specs. So
yeah, it's used for the expectations that are failing, isn't it? So
right, but it's not being used in the expectation where it's actually fails, because in that expectation we are overriding or defining a local variable called inline 54, overriding or defining.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, sorry,
so
you're quite right.
But it is actually used in other expectations with the @ sign in front. So I'm not sure if it's, maybe you should rename the variable and stop using. I have asked for that, and it should be called something else. I don't know. Oh, I don't know.
That's definitely worth a test. By the way, this failed. So when you have only the new index,
Okay,
and it's now failing with a different, it's last time it got 0, right? This time it got 20.
And did you just update that fixture? I missed that.
No, I didn't update the fixture.
You didn't? Oh,
what did you do? Did you?
Nothing. So the only thing I did was to remove the old index, which is basically what the migration does.
Okay.
So you've now got neither the old or the, oh, you have got the new index.
Yeah, I've got the new index and it's failing, but it's failing with a different value than before. But it's definitely worth a try changing the fixture and see what happens.
Yeah, I'm also wondering, like adding the aggregate failures trait to the shared example. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
This is great.
So
yeah, thank you. Okay.
It didn't give us any like extra failures on it.
Okay, so this one just fails. Yeah, okay.
What should we set it to?
40.
We'll set different values. 40 is an illegal value.
That's why no, just kidding. Yes.
Okay, so we'll set different values, like issues to 20, merge we'll keep 10, and snippets we can set to 0.
Yeah, 30 maybe.
So now issues should go to enable. What is the other? Merge should remain at 10, and snippets goes to disable. Right. Yeah.
So you made a couple of changes, right? Just can you do a git diff just so I see it? Yeah, okay. Now I see the blue.
So
Yeah, okay. Yeah, okay.
Yeah,
makes sense.
So
it should should still pass, right?
Yeah, it should still
Give,
pass.
give,
Can we run only
but
this
on master.
example though?
On master, yeah.
Yeah,
I am
okay.
on master right now.
Let's run only this example though, not the entire spec.
Is
Yeah,
it
I've been
slow?
running with only that example.
Yeah.
Okay.
I should probably use Spring, it's faster. No? Okay, so on master, we have both the indices and normally it passes.
Interesting.
And it should pass again.
So you do the indexes have now a different order than usually? So meaning
Different order.
definition order of the indexes.
Maybe. In the structure SQL, you mean?
Yeah, no, in the project features table. So locally for me, yeah, it's still the same, right? Okay. Yeah, I didn't see how you added or removed the index, and depending on the order, maybe it's also related. So if you swap the definition of the unique.
Should not do anything. I just don't get it.
I think you should ping also some database maintainers.
Still fails.
One failed and one passed. Yeah. One passed and one failed. So issues access level expected enabled, it was private. So it seems like the fixture made no difference. And snippets as well. So the third one that we had changed was merge requests. No, sorry, we didn't change merge requests, and that one has passed. So maybe it's just a coincidence. Maybe if we change this, merge request will also fail. So I guess this means that, but one failed and one passed. Restore correct.
Which one did pass though?
It's the same spec, but it's a shared example. So I think it gets run from two different places.
Okay.
So like one is from enable ND-JSON input. We can search for that. So one is from here. And the other
once is using the legacy reader, or the other one. Maybe it's a bug somewhere. I don't know.
Maybe. Wait, both are in enable ND-JSON input.
Both are enabled?
Yeah, see, both are under the enable ND-JSON input.
Yeah, but I think one of them is so if you go to the spec line 1054, yeah, one is passing legacy true and the other one.
Okay.
So this might be a difference.
Yeah. I'm not sure what these mean.
Okay, yeah. For some reason, I was reading the arguments wrong. I thought it was keyword arguments. It is not. Okay, reader. So
right
it's
now
setting.
Sorry, go ahead.
No,
So
setting. Sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
It's setting up a different reader. So
Oh.
in case of legacy reader, it does not actually use the old one, but overrides it with the new one.
Okay.
Interesting. So which one fails?
One second. So I changed merge request, but I forgot to change. I changed merge request to disable. I forgot to change the expectation. So which one had failed? Which one had passed?
The second one.
Yeah, the second one.
So
Because in order, then it's the ND-JSON reader which failed.
yeah, but on CI it seems they are all failing, right? Well,
Yeah.
Enable, restore project. It's hard to tell actually.
Wait. So yeah. So again, one fails and one passes.
Mhm.
So one of the readers reads the fixture, I guess, and the other one doesn't.
Fun. Maybe this is expected, but
Yeah. I think I'll have to ask someone who's familiar with import export, like someone who knows like what the difference between the ND-JSON reader and legacy reader.
Yeah, I have no idea why is it failing. Only because of the index.
Yeah, I'm still interested in knowing how the index has triggered this though. That'd be interesting. Maybe the database, the bi-weekly database call, I can mention.
Like it should not affect the order of the index. It should not do anything just because that extra part is just a dangler. It sits there as the information. So like I can understand if it tries to swap somehow the order of the indexes, maybe something funky is going on, right?
Yeah.
Like
oh,
because it's running parallel, it creates several projects and several features, and maybe somehow, but the index should be exactly the same. So yeah, I just don't get it.
one, I've dug into the code a little bit. If you go to the import export regarding the difference between legacy and the new JSON reader, if you go into lib GitLab import export tree restorer to line, oh God, 51, import export tree restorer, yeah. I think we have to change two different spec
This one,
fixtures.
the group one,
The project one, project tree restorer. Yeah, 51. Yeah, so this one is actually looking or detecting which one to use, which reader to use. The first one, ND-JSON, it's only enabled if the feature flag is enabled. The second one, if you look into the legacy relation reader, it is actually reading from the project JSON, but the new one, the ND-JSON, is actually reading from a different path. So it's reading from a directory. That's why the specs changing the fixture does not make the other spec fail. So
okay.
You, in order to fix it or make it work, I don't know, you have to edit, I think, the other fixture which is inside the tree directory of this fixture folder. Why? Yeah, this one. Exactly.
Yeah.
So there's also a project JSON. There, if you go down. I'm not sure, or is there? No. I think this one, yeah, and this one does not contain
yeah.
actually the feature specs, feature project features. If you compare it to the other project, Jason, right below, yeah, this one contains one,
Yeah.
and yeah, so maybe they should be
The same.
unified. Yeah, exactly. This is my assumption. So if you were to add project feature in the other fixture and just override it, yeah, I think it
Is it
should
a
be.
top level key? I think it is.
I don't know.
Copy this.
I don't have my ruler with me, so usually I do a ruler on my screen to see whether it's. Just kidding. Maybe not. I don't know. Let me check.
Does this work? That was a great find, by the way, Peter.
I am lucky sometimes. So keys. Yeah, I think project feature is top level key.
Yeah, I think so.
So, yeah. I think it has to be single line because ND, I think it's new line delimited. Yeah, it's if you. I used to know this, but I forgot those things. Yeah, it's this one.
What is ND?
I just posted the link to NG. New line delimited JSON. So,
Okay.
so you get information JSON payload per line, as far as I understand. So it's not pretty printed anymore. Each line should contain a valid JSON.
Okay.
Yeah, but still, I'm not sure if it's has to do anything with the index error at all. But
Yeah.
One fail, one pass.
so, sorry, I missed it. Did you verify it that it's?
Yeah, but this file had new lines, so maybe that caused the problem because we got the same old result, one passing, one failing.
Okay.
Now I've removed the new lines and tried again.
Oh, okay. So what does?
All in a restored method. So,
no. It doesn't work that way. I've dug even deeper into. Okay, it seems we have to put this information somewhere else. So, okay, there's in the fixture directory, in the complex fixture directory, there's tree project, and then there's project feature ndjson. So yeah, this is so I've read the code, and the code actually reads or consumes the attributes. So if you go into import export JSON ND JSON reader, you can find out how I got this one. But it seems it's the same information already in there, right?
Yeah, but we modified it, right?
Yeah, okay. Just trying to verify that it's actually not a bug.
Yeah, so
Yeah, time set
this is
are
actually
the
something
same. Yeah. So
Yeah.
updated created type seems to be the same. Yeah. Okay. Makes sense.
by using this.
So if you go to the production code import export JSON ND JSON reader, yeah, you see consume attributes, which is the project JSON we looked at or tried to modify. But I think in this case, we need to go to consume relation, which is actually reading each relation. Yeah, each relation from of a project. For example, in line 36, it says, for example, 3 project merge requests. But yeah, okay. But this still does not give us a clue why it's failing on a different index. But yeah, just for
Some clues it does give.
yeah.
I didn't know about ND-JSON.
I think it's been invented or used, most likely used in logs. So nowadays we tend to log to emit JSON logs. So it's also basically ND JSON.
Yeah. Yeah, see, it's fast now.
Okay. So this one at least we verified, and let's end the call to finish with a success.
Yeah. Thanks a
But
lot, Peter. That's nice.
yeah, sure. I'm also very interested in the solution. So if you don't mind, please ping me on Slack or the merge request. I want to know the answer because, yeah, interesting.
Yeah. Whatever the bug is, I want to know how the index and Google figured it.
Yeah, same here. I don't know. It's magic.
Well, thanks everyone. Thanks for sticking around. Thanks, Alexander.
Thanks,
Yeah, no
Alex.
problem. Not much from my end. Fine.
Bye bye.